Okay, so we are borrowing some notes from Saugus High School. They were so gracious as to let us borrow these. Right here, we have our transformations unit. We're going to use absolute value first, and then I'll talk about the exponential. So if I look at this, even if we were doing quadratic, it's basically the exact same formula where we have the a on the outside of either the absolute value or the parentheses. And then we have the subtracting. This subtracting, as it says right here, be careful. There's a minus sign in front of h. So you think of the opposite. This is always a minus sign. If it has a plus sign, that means you've had subtraction and then a negative sign. And then we have a plus k. The vertex is always HK. H deals with the horizontal shifts, and we're taking the opposite of those. So this, we're either going to go left or we're going to go right. The vertical shifts, they're the same number. We're either going to go up or we're going to go down. A is where you can tell if you're going to have something shooting up or shooting down. When we're dealing with this, oh, that's down here, but we'll go to this real quick. So if it's a positive A, it's going to go upwards, and it's upside down if it's a negative A. Then, if A is greater than 1, then we'll have a stretch. If it's between 0 and 1, again, between 0 and 1, don't say just less than 1, but it's between 0 and 1, you'll have a shrink. And then if A is less than 0, negative, then the graph will have an x-axis reflection and turn upside down. Again, that's what I just said a moment ago. Guess I should put some arrows on these. There we go. Okay, so we're going to look down at this. This right here is the parent function, just like we talked about a couple of class times ago. This is the parent function. It goes through the origin of 0, 0, and it has a slope of 1 on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side has a slope of negative 1. Now, right here, we're reflecting over the x-axis. That means that there's going to be a negative a value. This means that the horizontal shift is right 2. So when we talk about that, we're talking about our h value is going to be 2, and then our k value is going to be negative 5 because it says down. Okay, so let's come up with an equation for this. So it says f of x. So I'm going to do f of x. Tells me I need a negative a, so the negative is going to go up front. I put an absolute value, x minus, and then our h value is 2. And then we subtract 5 because it said we go down 5. Now, when we're talking about the parent graph, and we have this right here for the parent graph. When we have the parent graph, it's y equals absolute value of x. If I was to plug in negative 2, I would get 2. Negative 1, I would get 1. 0, I would get 0. And 1, I would get 1. And 2, I would get 2. But we don't want that. We want this right here. So it says right here we have a horizontal shift of 2. That means I'm going to be taking 0 and adding 2 to it because I'm going to the right. So I'm going to write over here, I'm going to take the x value and I'm going to add 2 to it. And then on the right hand side, this negative right here tells me that I'm going to take the opposite of what the y value is, and then I'm going to subtract 5. So now we're going to make a new t-chart with our new numbers. So we're going to take the x values and we're going to add 2 to it. So negative 2 plus 2 is going to get us, amazingly, 0. And then negative 1 plus 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then over here, we have to do the multiplication first because multiplication comes before addition and subtraction. So the opposite of 2 is negative 2. And then subtract 5. So then we get a negative 7. Then I take the opposite of 1 and I subtract 5 and I get negative 6. 0 and then negative 5. And then opposite of this, well, isn't that the same thing as that up there? Because didn't we say these were symmetric at one time? Okay, then I draw my pretty picture. Okay, my vertex, I should have done that first. If I look at this, what is my vertex point? Well, my h value is 2. My k value is negative 5. So that's where I'm going to want to start. So I go to 2 and I go to negative 5. Then it says I have 0, negative 7. But isn't it reflected right here, 4, negative 7? So I went 4, negative 7. And then it says 1, negative 6. So 1, negative 6. And then 3, negative 6. Oops, I put it in the wrong spot. Then I draw my ends. So, domain and range. Domain, what x values can I plug in? I can plug in any x value I want. So that means negative infinity to positive infinity. But when we're talking about my y values, I start at negative 5 and I only go down. So that means I start at negative 5 and I go down. So it goes negative infinity to negative 5, and there we have our range. Okay, let's try it again. This time it says we're doing a vertical stretch by 3. Doing a vertical stretch by 3. Well, what is a vertical stretch? Vertical stretch is the a value. So our a value here is going to be 3. Then it says a vertical shift down. So that means our k value is negative 1. Maybe some of you are like, well, where's the h? Where's the h? It's okay. The h value in this instant was actually be 0 because we're not shifting it left or right. So this time it's going to be f of x equals 3 absolute value of x because we don't have an h value, and then subtracting 1. Okay, so again, our vertex point, our h value is 0, so we leave it there, and then our k value is negative 1. Then we're going to make our t-chart. Did you notice how they left it blank for us? Now, I personally, when I do this, I always write down what the parent graph one is. So I always write down x, y, and do negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and then 2, 1, 0, 1, 2. And then I add on the other parts. Okay? But in this instance, did you notice we don't have to do anything to the x, so I really didn't need that other side because my x values are going to stay the same. But my y values are going to change. I have a 3 as my a value and a negative 1 as my k value. So I'm going to take 3 and multiply it by my y values, and then I'm going to subtract 1. So 2 times 3 is 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. Then 1 times 3 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. 0 is so much easier. Then you plug in this. Oh, but this is reflecting. So shouldn't it be the exact same? So this should be 2 and this should be 5. And then I graph my pretty graph. My vertex point is 0, negative 1. So I come here to 0, negative 1. Then I can go to I go to 0, and then I guess I could start here. I go to -2 and up to 5. I go to -1 and I go to 2. And then 0, -1, we already have that. 1, 2. Did you notice that I did that and nobody stopped me? I don't like doing these videos because there's nobody here to stop me. Thank you for whoever was going to email me. 1, 2 is here, and then 2, 5 is here. And there we go. And there we go. Again, domain and range. Domain and range is talking about our x and y values. So what x value can I have? I can plug in any x value I want. So that goes from -infinity to +infinity. The lowest x value I have, ooh, I messed up over here and nobody else caught me. Maybe you would have. That should have been an included -5. Over here, an included -1 and going up to +infinity. Okay, so hopefully you've got that. Okay, here we go for our next one. Number 3. Given the parent graph, f of x equals the absolute value of x, create function with a range of -2 to +infinity. Oh man, what does that mean? That means the lowest value, sorry, I didn't move it down. The lowest value I get for my range is a -2. So if the lowest value I can get is -2, that means that it's going to go from -2, so this is -2 from my y values, and it's going to go up. So since our graph is going to go up, we know that the a value has to be positive. Sorry, you can't see all that. The a value has to be positive. Now, what else we know is that the k value has to be -2, because we start at 0, 0, and we can go down. So let's look over here. So we know that it can't go past here, and we know it goes upwards. Goes upwards. Do we know yet? Where? Did it tell us yet? No, it hasn't. What we know from this, from just this information that we're given, that f of x equals, it would be a positive a value because it would be going up. So you don't normally write the plus there, but we're just going to do it for this time. X, because it didn't say anything about left or right, and then we subtract 2. Now, could we have said a plus in here? Well, if they had given us a little bit more information, could we have done a negative in there? Yeah. But this is all the information that it's been given so far, so that's all we can do. Now, we're going to do it number 4. Now, on this one, it says that the range for this one is at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's going downward. So we know it has to go down. Oops. I should be making my vertices on that. There we go. It has to be going down. So my a value has to be negative, and then my k value is 4. So f of x equals negative absolute value of x plus 4. Then down here, what things do we know? We know that This number right here tells us we have a vertical stretch of 3. This in here tells us we're going to move right 4, and it tells us that we're going to go up 2. What is my vertex for this? Well, my H value is 4. My K value is 2. Then we do this down here. This is going to be 2, 1, 0, 1, 2. So we do what it says. We're going to add 4 to the X value, and we're going to multiply the Y value by 3, and we're going to add 2. So I add 4, and I'm going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over here, I'm going to get 6 plus 2 is 8, 3 plus 2 is 5, 2, and then I should get 5 and 8 again. So then I plot my points. So my vertex is 4, 2, so I go 4, 2. Then I say my point is 2, 8, so 2, 8. Then it says 3, 5, and 5, 5, and 6, 8. And then there we are. And down here, my A value, the slope of the line. So if I just look on this part right here, what is the slope of my line? If I look on that side, or I should say my A value, first of all, is 3. But if I look on this side, my slope is 3. If I look on this side, my slope is -3. My domain and range, again, my domain, I can plug in any number I want. The lowest value for the Y value is a 2. The highest goes on forever. Okay, let's look at the last one on this page, number 6. Okay, I do this. Ooh, I see that I have a reflection flex over the Y, or sorry, the x-axis. So my A value is -1/2, and there is a vertical shrink. And then I'm going to move it to the left 3, and I'm going to go down 1. So I fill in my t-chart. Oh, I need to do my vertex first. So -3, -1, then X and Y, and I have -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. I have 2, 1, 0, 1, 2. And I'll use this. What am I going to do to my X value? To my X value, I'm going to subtract 3 because I'm going to the left 3. Then for my Y value, I'm going to multiply it by at -1/2, and then I'm going to subtract 1. So I subtract 3 and get -5. Subtract 1, -4, -3, -2, -1. Then over here, multiply this by -1/2. So that's going to get me -1 minus 1, -2. -1/2 minus 1/2. Well, I know some of you have issues with fractions, but -1/2. Then 0 is going to get us -1. Then this is going to get us -1/2 and -2. Then I graph this beautiful graph here, -3, -1. Remember, we're going downwards. So then I go to -4, and it's 1.5. And -2 is -1.5. And then I go to -4, or -5, I'm sorry. Oh, -5, sorry, is -2 right here. Ooh, do you notice how wide it is? It's super wide compared to the other ones we've been doing. That's because the A value made it into a vertical shrink, but do you notice the horizontal is very wide? So the A value for this is -1/2. So the slope this way is -1/2, and going up is +1/2 on this side. The domain and range. Okay, so, oops. No, I was right. This way, and my highest number I can got is -1, and there we are. Okay. This is just an overview. If you want extra practice on this, I did give you, this is not your homework, but this is something that you can practice if you would like, and I will have the answers on Google Classroom.